You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marissa Lonick, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Hey, mamas. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Mama Work It podcast. I am so excited to welcome my guest today, Lauren Smit, coming all the way from South Africa, you guys. Lauren is a marketing coach helping moms in service-based businesses attract quality clients so they can build a fulfilled life with family and freedom. She was in the brand and marketing industry for over 8 years before finding her passion for coaching. She realized how much more of an impact she can make when giving women the tools to build a thriving, successful business where they have time to spend with family, but still absolutely love what they do. Amen to that. All right. Lauren also specializes in the 5 different imposter syndromes and helps women all over the world to manage and overcome it so that we're able to take action toward our dreams. Oh, you guys, I love this topic so much. This is the second episode we're doing on the Mama Work It podcast on imposter syndrome. We did one way back in season 1. So if you haven't listened, you can totally tune into that after you listen to today's episode, because this stuff is so relatable. Like, it is, in my opinion, the equal opportunity employer. It does not discriminate no matter how successful you are. Imposter syndrome can totally show up for you. So without further ado, let's dive in. Lauren, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on the podcast and chat about this today.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, I know I introduced you, but I would love to hear more about you and your story and kind of how this came to be for you.
Yes, thank you. So I started as a brand and marketing strategist, and I really, really enjoyed it. But I started to not enjoy it as much because I just realized that women were looking for um, more than just the visual side and more than just branding. And so um, I found coaching for myself and for my business, and I absolutely loved it. And I also, in my own process in my business, learned about imposter syndrome, and it changed the way I do business. It has changed my clients' life. Just to know that, like, your lack of success or lack of moving forward isn't always just because you're not good enough or whatever, and that can all change because that's what imposter syndrome is all about. But that really, really made such a huge difference in my business, in myself, in my life, with my family and everything. So I'm so excited to share more about it today.
I love that. I feel like, gosh, I mean, I know I can totally relate to that story in the sense of, the transition, the feeling of imposter syndrome, the once you get a handle and even just understanding what it is, not necessarily like surpassing it and like throwing it all away, but even just the pure understanding and acknowledgement of it can make huge shifts for you, right? So,
Yes,
for
exactly.
those listening who maybe have never heard of imposter syndrome before, or maybe have but aren't that familiar, can you tell us in your own words what this means to you?
Yes. So the biggest part of imposter syndrome is just the general feeling of I'm not good enough, right? Even though all of the evidence points that you should be getting recognition for things that you have accomplished and that you are good enough. But we keep telling ourselves that it wasn't really us, or we're not, that wasn't really justified to say that we are good enough or whatever. Like, we just set such high expectations, and a lot of the symptoms of imposter syndrome, which we'll get into, is trying to be good enough. And so imposter syndrome is really like if you often tell yourself like I'm not good enough, like I shouldn't be doing this, I can't be doing this, or that wasn't really something that I should get recognition for or whatever, then imposter syndrome is definitely something that you should look into and educate yourself about, because even just being aware of it can really help you to move forward.
Yeah. I like that you said, you know, when there is evidence, or when someone when you were speaking, I was thinking when someone compliments a woman
Yes.
oftentimes, or gives her recognition for a job well done, whether that's at the office for work, or, maybe that's in her own business or whatever, the typical visceral and immediate response that I know I've experienced, I see other women do, is to never take the credit, is to always
Yes.
kind of like divvy out the credit amongst the team,
Yeah.
or like, oh, that was just good luck,
Yes.
or that was a fluke, and not just really sit back and own the fact that, like, no, I actually did a damn good job. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. And that's all and the hardest thing is to like somebody giving you a compliment and just saying thank you and not saying, like it even comes to us as women, for example, wearing a scarf or something and somebody goes, "Oh, that's so beautiful." And you go, "Thank you. That was my grandmother's," or "I got it as a gift," or even that is like deflecting the fact that somebody's just complimenting you being beautiful, and then you also just struggling to say, well, thank you. So the hardest thing is to just go thank you and accept sort of the compliment and accept the acknowledgement.
Yeah, I remember going to a seminar once, and that was something that the facilitator said, like, just say thank you and
Yeah.
don't say anything else. Because I know what I used to say, and I still do it sometimes. I'm not perfect, you
Yes, I
guys.
think
But
we all do.
what I used to say is, like, if someone would compliment my outfit, or, an accessory I was wearing, I'd always be like, thanks. And then I'd be like, it was such a steal, or I got it on sale, or, oh,
Yes.
no, this is so old, or like, I would never just accept the fact that, like, maybe I do actually look like $1,000,000 right now, and nobody has to know that I paid like $27 for this shirt or whatever.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes, I know. I especially like if you get something for a bargain, then you're like, yes, and I only paid this much or whatever, but you're still deflecting
Yeah.
the fact that somebody's going, you look beautiful today. And I think as women, that's also a big part of it, not just like in our businesses and with family and things like that. It's just to be like, thank you. So
Yeah. All right. So, listeners, your action item so far for today's episode is to make sure the next time you get a compliment is to simply say thank you and not anything else. Do not deflect the compliment. Say thank you, move on with life. Okay.
yes,
Let's get to
practice
our
that.
next question here. How does imposter syndrome affect us in our businesses, if we're self employed, our careers, if we're working for someone else? And, how does it show up in those areas?
Yes, so a lot of the imposter syndrome comes in through like procrastination. So
Mm.
when we go through the 5 different types, it will be easier to understand like where the procrastination is coming from. So we procrastinate because we want things to be really perfect, because we want to be good enough. We procrastinate by like studying or consuming a lot of information instead of going out there and meeting people or posting our social media content or like implementing our strategy to get in front of more people, right? So that's a big part of where we're trying to make up for the fact that we're trying to be good enough. Another piece is just working all the time because you feel like if you're not doing something, you're just never going to get there and you're never going to be good enough. So you're just constantly working, you're answering emails out of work hours, you just go, go, go all the time. And that's also a lot of imposter syndrome side effects come down to like burnout as well, because we're so burnt out because we're not getting the results, which might be more clients, because we're consumed by trying to be good enough first. rather than being visible and learning as we go by the mistakes that we make. And then also working with ourselves to know that we are good enough, like finding the evidence to show, because there is evidence. I promise you, even if you haven't had a client and you're just helping your mom, or you're just studying and people are complimenting on your progress, you are good enough. There is evidence to find that you are good enough.
Oh, I love that you said that. I mean, I don't love to hear that, but I love that you said that because when you talked about burnout, I teach a lot on time management, productivity, and
Yeah.
that can often happen. I think when we're not managing our time effectively, when we're just go,
Yes.
go, go, doing all the time. And it's interesting that that is a way to show imposter syndrome, even if you're not aware of that's what you're
Yes.
doing. Um, the other side of that, like you said, the procrastination side, I think is like, well, I'm going to feel kind of shameful and guilty when I
Yeah.
procrastinate. So, like, neither one of these effects is good, right? You're
No.
either going to be burnt out and exhausted, or you're going to feel like crap and like, you didn't get what you wanted to get done today. And it's so interesting that this is deeply rooted in this one thing that we don't
Yeah.
necessarily think of as being something that we suffer from or have in our lives or even know about.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Because our actions that we're taking from the thought of I'm not good enough never leads to you feeling good enough. Doesn't matter
yeah.
how much of it you're trying to do. So you might constantly be trying to get something perfect, and then you might feel like you reached that perfectionism, and you might feel good for a little bit, but then the next post comes along and you have to do another design for that social media content, or you have to put another proposal together, or whatever it is that you're working on. So working from a place of thinking that this will make me be good enough will never give you that satisfaction of I'm good enough, because we first need to feel like we are good enough in the first place, right? We need to have that belief in ourselves, and from that place we can find fulfillment in the things that we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned these five different types of imposter syndrome. I'm super intrigued by this. Can you explain those to us a little bit?
Yes, I love it as well. When I found it out, I was just so excited by it. And just a heads up, so you might feel aligned with all of them right now. You might not only have a couple that you feel aligned with, and then others that you, in certain situations later in your life, for example, that you've never been in, then a certain imposter syndrome can come up. So it's really, really interesting, and it's really good to know these different types as well. So the first one is the perfectionist. So we're procrastinating because we don't feel good enough if everything isn't perfect. So we also set really unrealistic goals. And then when we don't reach those goals, our inner critic flares up and tells us we're not good enough because we didn't meet this unrealistic goal, right? Um, so that's the perfectionist. The second one is the superwoman or superman, but you push yourself harder than else would push yourself. So you just go, go, go all the time. You're working 24/7. You're answering emails or clients outside of your working hours. And you struggle to switch off. So you might even put time aside to be with your kids, but you're just not really present with them because you're struggling to let go of work because you feel like if you're not working, you're not good enough. The third one is the natural genius. This is one that I still sometimes struggle with. So, the natural genius previously found things really easy to do. So, they have kind of like a proud no fail record. And when they fail, they get a huge knock in their confidence and they don't want to take up challenges. So, for example, this came up for me. I grew up in a small town. It was really easy for me to be top of my class without working hard. We were very few in the class. I was good at tennis. I was good at piano. I was good at everything that we did. And then I went to a school in the city where I was competing against 175 girls in my grade, and then my confidence got a knock because I wasn't able to perform as easily as I was previously. And so that has also showed up in my business and is something that I have to manage. So the natural genius doesn't want to fail. So they feel like if they fail the first time, they just should never do it again, or they don't want to take up the challenge in case they fail. The fourth one is the soloist. So the soloist believes that true success is working on your own. So the soloist really struggles to ask for help, because asking for help means you're failing, right? And then the last one is the expert. The expert can't move forward without all of the information. So you're always in consumption mode. You're always trying to learn. You think that like this certification and that certification and this thing will make you more qualified and make you good enough. And so you're stuck in consumption mode instead of taking action, right? Because you're afraid to look stupid. Even if you like have to ask or answer some questions, you're scared of looking stupid. And so you also sometimes don't approach certain opportunities because of not feeling good enough, because you feel like you're not an expert enough. So whether that's like looking for a job and you don't tick all the boxes, or whether that's a client reaching out, or a potential client posting into a Facebook group, and they've mentioned that they're looking for some service which you don't offer, and then you don't reach out because you're like, well, I can't tick all the boxes, right? So those are the 5 different types of imposter syndrome.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I'll just say personally, I can relate to many of those. Probably all of them if I really think about different seasons of my life.
Yes, yes.
Yes. But for sure, I even feel some of them now, like in the stage I'm in. And it's so incredible to me that the common denominator that I heard from you in speaking, this is not what's incredible, but the common denominator that I heard in you speaking is all of these things make you feel stuck
Yeah,
and don't allow you to move forward.
yeah, they do. So,
Yeah.
so much. Like you're like, I need to do this, and you put it on your to-do list, and you even maybe schedule some time out to do it, and you just really struggle to finish it, or to take that time to do it, or like take up the challenge to learn from it, whether it comes out the way you think it should or shouldn't. It is such a huge part of why we are stuck in our businesses and in life, in other areas of life as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's incredible to me, this is what I wanted to say, is like, this is so related to your time management and your productivity. Because if you're feeling stuck and this is deeply rooted in some type of imposter syndrome, and maybe you didn't even know it was, it's affecting you in this way. It's affecting you in your output. It's making you feel defeated at the end of the day because you
Yeah,
didn't get all those things checked off, or it's making you feel burnt out because you're just go, 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 or it's making you
yeah,
feel like, oh, I don't know, like your confidence is lacking or whatever that is. I mean, gosh, I preach about this and teach about this all day long, and this is still affecting me sometimes. So this
exactly.
is some deep work that has to
Yes.
really like get done, right? Like I kind of cringe sometimes when I tell people that that's what I do, time management and productivity, because I think where my mind goes and where I think a lot of people's minds goes is like, ooh, like rigid spreadsheets or like
Yes.
really concrete schedules without flexibility and fun. And that sounds horrible. And the thing
Yes.
is, yeah, of course, there needs to be some organization and some systems, but a lot of this work is really rooted in internal work, right?
Yes.
And overcoming some of these things. This is why we have episodes like this on the show. This is why we talk a lot about personal development in my programs. This is why, because even with all those systems and all those tools, you could do well with those for a few days or even a few weeks. But if you're not getting to the core issues here, you can't sustain that long term.
Yes, exactly. So, like, for example, with my time management as well, I have hopped from system to system, from like to-do list to do list, gone back to like just handwritten to-do lists and things like that. And the issue isn't actually finding the correct system as much. I mean, there is, preferences and stuff, but as much as it is like understanding the thoughts that you're having behind why you're not taking that action, like where you're trying to compensate for those actions, and where your inaction is also like driven by the thoughts that you have and things like that. So it's a lot of inner work to help us even create those systems and work through them like kind of flawlessly. I don't think that's possible, but you get the gist of what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say.
In a more capable way, for
Yes.
sure. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about some of those tools. Like, what are some tools that we can use to help us manage imposter syndrome? I mean, obviously, yes, we can find the right systems here and there, the right organization tools, right, to help us
Yeah.
with our productivity and help us not feel so stuck. But what are some other tools that you particularly use to help your clients?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is to try and start listening to what's happening in your mind. So you can ask yourself a couple of questions, journal, and ask yourself, like, where am I holding myself back? Like, if I couldn't fail at all, like, what would I actually be doing? Like, how would I be implementing and using my time, for example? Um, and then really just starting to recognize where you're holding yourself back. That's where you'll start to recognize which type of imposter syndrome you're experiencing in different situations that you're in. So that's the first thing. The second thing is general tools that help for all of the imposter syndrome is to have a file on your computer. I know a lot of people and coaches have spoken about this, but it's really, really so important to remind yourself of the wins and the things that you have accomplished. So make a file on your desktop or somewhere on your phone, wherever it's easy to access, and like look at it once a week and update it once a week, and put in things, even though they feel irrelevant. It can be the smallest thing. Put things in, and when you go through that file, don't just like read through them. Sit and feel that feeling, even if it's just for like 15 seconds or 30 seconds, of like, how does it and did it feel when you accomplished this thing? And like train yourself to enjoy the feelings and enjoy the fact that you did accomplish this. And you can just keep showing your brain that you have been able to, you are good enough, you can do these things, you know, all of those good things that we keep like deflecting and putting aside. So those are the two big things that I would say. And then, like, for example, if you are feeling like you want everything to be perfect, like the perfectionist, lower your expectations. Like, what is really doable, especially like with you working with time management and things, what is really doable in the schedule that you have? Like, don't put all of these things to do in one day and then beat yourself up that you didn't manage to do all of it, right? So just lift the pedal a bit. It's the same with a superwoman. Lift the pedal with a bit. Show yourself, like, especially in productivity, it's been proven to that you're more productive if you've rested and you've taken care of yourself and things like that. So those are a couple of the tools that really just help you to remind yourself how good you are and that you are good enough and that you can be doing these things, but also just shift your mind into more confidence, because in the end of the day, if you keep thinking you're not good enough, it's really takes a knock in your confidence, and then it affects your business so much so that you don't land clients, you don't see results, and you don't take action in the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like, if you believe that, it it it's like your aura around you, right? So like
Yes,
if you're not even thinking you're capable of doing things, why would anyone hire you to do it? Why would you get a
exactly.
promotion? Why would anyone trust you with this or that? I mean, you have to be in that presence, like your highest self presence, in order
Yes.
to attract that stuff. So I'm a firm believer. I love those tips. Absolutely love those tips. And you know what? I haven't been told those tips specifically, but I'm excited to say that I actually do a lot of those things. So
That
that's
is so
great.
good.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things I like to do when I'm having kind of a impostery syndrome kind of day is I'll log in. I have a couple courses on Udemy, the platform Udemy.
Okay.
I'll log into there and I'll just check the new reviews that have come in. And it is always like a huge boost to see, like, okay, no, this is working. Like, people are actually gaining important information from what I have to say. Like, okay, get out of here, imposter syndrome. It's cool. We're good. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
so
glad that you
good.
said that. Yeah.
Yes, that's so good. And I think we forget to practice enjoying the celebration as well. You know, like even if you ask a lot of business owners, like, how are you celebrating that you even just put a consultation on your schedule or something like that, they're like, oh no, I'm not celebrating, or I don't know what to do, or they're very indecisive. And I think we just need to practice celebrating and practice being in like um, that gratitude sort of energy and enjoying the fact that we were able to do, even if it's like a tiny thing for you, but just not to compare yourself to somebody else who seems to have done more in less time or whatever the situation is. Just like focusing on yourself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, comparisonitis. We need a whole nother episode on that
Yes.
for sure. For
Yes,
sure.
definitely.
Yeah. So, do you think, Lauren, that it is possible to totally overcome imposter syndrome?
I don't really think so, because I think self awareness is just like a continuous journey, right? You're continually learning about yourself. When new situations arise that you've never been in, you react a certain way, and then becoming more self aware in that, for example, you'll find why you reacted that way, for like what happened maybe as a child or something. So I think with self awareness, you always learning more about yourself, you always working through it. The difference I would say with imposter syndrome is that you might not overcome it completely, but you'll become faster at shifting your mind, so you'll recognize it much quicker, and you'll know what to look for, and you'll realize that you're sabotaging yourself, and then you're able to use the tools to get back into the mindset that helps you take action, into the reason why you're doing what you're doing and who you want to be when you're showing up, for example.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. I agree. I feel like we're never going to be perfect, right? I
Yeah,
mean, nobody's perfect.
exactly.
So, the simple awareness of it, though, is such a huge beneficial factor in your ability to just kind of keep it under control. It's kind of like mom guilt, I think, right? Like,
Exactly.
it never
Yeah.
fully goes away, but you can totally like check that B and make sure she
Yes.
knows who's boss. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I
All right,
agree.
Lauren.
Yes.
We are going to move into our lightning round now, where I like to ask you some just for fun, random questions, just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better on a personal level. Are you ready?
Yes. All for it.
Okay. Awesome. What is your guilty pleasure TV show? I'm so curious because you're in South Africa, so I wonder if we watch the same kind of shows too.
I think we do. So I am loving Bridgerton. I don't know how many seasons are because I think we don't get as many seasons as other countries, depending on, I'm not even sure, but I've watched the second season, and so I'm excited. If there's more, I'm not even sure. But yes, I've been enjoying Bridgerton a lot.
No, you girl, you are up to date. There have been 2 seasons so
uh,
far, and yes, I agree. That is a good show for sure.
yes.
Yeah, I learned about it on this podcast. Actually, somebody answered that question, and I hadn't seen it, and I'm like, I'm going to check that out. And
Oh,
here we go.
so
All
good.
right, nail salon, hair salon, or spa. You can only pick one place to visit for the rest of your life. Which one is it?
This is a little bit tough, but I would say spa. I think like we need all the relaxing that we can get as mothers.
Yeah. Yeah. What if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life? What would it be?
That one is so hard to answer because I mean, like, if you're looking at like salty, sweet, it's very hard to answer, but I think I'm taking pasta. As long as I can have different sauces on the pasta, then I'll be fine.
Creative choice. Yes,
Yes.
very creative choice. I love it. It's a good choice. What's your cocktail of choice?
I love pina colada very much. Enjoy that a lot.
Mm, such a vacay thing to choose. Love
It
it.
is, yes. And if gin and tonic was a cocktail, then that would be on my list as well. But I don't think.
Do
Maybe you
you
get
not
gin and tonic
consider gin and
cocktails.
tonic a cocktail? I feel like it is. Is it not?
Uh, we think of it more as like a mix with, so like, yeah, we wouldn't consider that wouldn't be on our cocktail menu in South Africa, if that makes sense. But I
Okay.
guess
Yeah.
if you are adding maybe like different like citruses and things like that, then maybe one could see it as a, well, if that's an option, let me say gin and tonic.
All right. We're getting so intricate here. I think this is like cultural differences coming into
Yes.
play. Yeah. All right. And finally, what book are you reading right now?
I'm reading Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown. I was gifted it by my best friend, so I'm slowly working through it, and it's really amazing. I love Brene Brown's work as well.
Oh, same. Yeah, I'm a huge Brene fan. So awesome. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for being here. Before we wrap up, can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, I'd love them to reach out and follow me on Instagram. I'm at laurensmit.com02 and reach out. I'm always happy to connect with new people and chat and learn more about everyone. So that's where you can get me.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here, for educating us on imposter syndrome, and for helping make a difference in women's lives in this really like big topic that I think we all find relatable.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed chatting to you, and I hope somebody can find this really helpful and enlightening and empowering as well.
You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, mama.